Ahead and get started. I am going to turn my camera off while I give a presentation, but my name is Genevieve Pear3. I'm in the Sustainability Division, and I'm the project manager on this project. We also have other city staff, including Jamie Larson from Sustainability and Teddy Callan from Procurement. So thanks again for joining today, and I'll go ahead and get started on the presentation. Okay, so thanks again for coming to the one of two pre-application meetings for the request for informal proposals for the accessory dwelling unit or ADU model plans project. So just a little bit of, well, here's the meeting outline. So we'll start with some background on why we're doing this project, what the timeline is, looking at required design features, desired design features, submittal requirements, selection criteria, and then give you a chance to ask questions. But if you at the end, but if you do have any questions about the content as we go, please go ahead and say so that we can answer them as we go. But just note that I won't be able to see your hand raised with my screen sharing. So Jamie or Teddy, if you see anyone's hand raised, please let me know. So this program has 4 goals. The first one is to create an ADU model plans library. So we want to host a growing inventory of pre-approved all-electric and energy-efficient detached ADUs. And the goal behind that is to grow the supply of ADUs in Flagstaff by simplifying the process and reducing the cost to design and permit ADUs, especially when compared to custom plans. The third goal is to increase awareness of ADUs and their benefits to the Flagstaff community. And the fourth goal is to connect interested homeowners with design professionals and other ADU resources. So with this request for informal proposals, we are seeking designs for a wide variety of ADU sizes, including smaller ADUs that are likely to fit on lots less than 6,000 square feet, as well as studio units, 1-bedroom units, and 2-bedroom units that will accommodate a variety of housing needs. Also, designers who have had projects that were previously built can also submit designs for those projects as well. So they don't all have to be new. If they've been built, that's totally fine. So a lot of different cities have done model plans libraries, so several in Arizona, also throughout the country. This is just a very short list. Basically just to say this is a relatively common tool that cities are using to address housing supply issues and to try to grow the supply of ADUs in their municipalities. And so we looked a lot at what other cities have done, as well as in Arizona, to kind of get a sense of what this could look like in Flagstaff. And we looked a lot at Tucson. They just launched a model plan library earlier this year. They held a design contest where they did select 10 winning designs. And these designs are being posted on the model plans library. So this is probably what it would look. It would look somewhat like this in Flagstaff. So basically, you can look at different designs. You can click on one that you're interested in or that the public is interested in and learn more about the design, and then contact the designer to get access to those plans and pay the designer's reuse fee in order to access those plans. So in Tucson, so for example, if you were interested in the middle one, the Roost project, you could click on it and see kind of more detailed renderings and building elevations. And then it would also show floor plans. So it wouldn't be showing the full construction documents. It would show a preview. But if someone was interested in potentially constructing that ADU on their property, they would contact the designer to get full access to those plans, and then work with the designer to do a site plan, go through the building permit and review process. So this is the timeline. So this is in the request for informal proposals, but just to summarize it here. So the application period opened on Friday, this past Friday, December 13th. We're having 2 pre-application meetings. So the first one is today and the second one is in January. That's on January 17th. So if you would like to attend one or both, definitely encouraged to do so. You have the chance to ask any questions and learn more about the project. The application submission period closes on February 10th, 2025 at noon. If you have any questions in writing, you need to submit them to Teddy Callan, who's here on the call today. So you're welcome to ask any questions today, but if you have additional questions, he's the one who takes questions about this project. And please email him no more than 3 days before the close of the submission period if you want to get your question answered. So once the submissions are received and the application period closes, all of the submissions that meet the minimum design requirements and are complete and turned in on time will go to the selection committee, and the panel will meet, review, and select the winning designers, and they'll be notified by February 24th, 2025. Then by March 3rd, 2025, the 10 selected proposals will be posted on the city's social media pages for Community Choice Award voting. And then the top 3 will be selected by March 21st, 2025. And then concurrently, the selected designers will need to be working on their construction plans. So by April 4th, 2025, the selected designers will need to submit full construction plans for city building plan review and approval. And then they need to be reviewed and approved by June 27th. So just note that between February 24th and April 4th, those design concepts will need to be turned into full construction plans, and then those construction plans will need to be approved by June 27th. So just kind of want to note that timeline and just say that city staff will work with the selected designers to make this process as smooth as possible and support you in getting your plans to building plan review and approval, but just note that we will expect selected designers to meet those deadlines and work with you to get those plans approved. Then the goal is to launch the Model Plans Library by July 18th, 2025, and then have this wrap up, at least this phase of a project wrap up by August 1st. Okay, so moving on for submittal requirements. So everything should be submitted in a PDF format. There's 4 different sets of document types that need to be submitted: the contact information, a descriptive narrative, architectural documents, and a memorandum of agreement. And I'll go over those in more detail in the next slide. An individual designer, excuse me, or design team can submit no more than 3 submissions, and no more than 2 from each individual designer or a design team can be selected. And if a designer does choose to submit more than 1 submittal, each one has to be submitted separately. Note this is an anonymous competition, so the architectural documents and the descriptive narrative should not have any sort of identifying information. So no team, individual, or company name, no contact information, no seal, logo, or identifying features. There is a contact information document that will have all that information, and there's a memorandum of agreement that does need to be signed. But those documents will not be forwarded to the selection committee. They will only be seeing the narrative and the architectural documents, so those need to be anonymous. So this is a little bit more information on what is required for each of these sets of documents. This is all from the request for informal proposals, so it's just copied here. But again, you have that contact information document, you have a narrative, we provide the design name, and you talk about how your design proposal is meeting the required design features listed in the RFIP, as well as the desired design features and the selection criteria, and if there will be anything that the proposal does to reduce the cost of construction. And I do want to note that the required design features are fairly detailed, and some of them will not be shown in the architectural documents submitted with the proposal because they're too detailed, and there's something that would be shown on the full construction plan. So that's where this bolded section is. So basically in your narrative, talk about what features are shown that we would be able to see on your architectural documents that you submit with your submittal, but then also note that some of them will be shown in the future in construction documents if your proposal is selected. So just note those so that when we're looking to make sure that these are complete, we know that some are shown in these architectural documents down here, and that we know that you acknowledge that the other ones will be shown on the construction plans if your proposal is selected. And then moving on. Oh, go ahead.
Looks like we had a question.
Okay.
Yeah, so it asks me for, the first part is actually just a narrative, so it's actual print, and then the second one is the plans. So you want the actual physical plans, like the CAD, where you have each fascia and each different length, width, height identified, like the actual full set of building plans, because I have submitted an ADU to the city before.
So this one actually isn't asking for the full set of building plans yet. So if your design is selected, then you would submit those full plans in the future. So really what it's looking for is just dimensioned elevations and optional renderings, and just saying, north, south, east, and west building elevations, as well as floor plans. And then also indicating if your design can be placed on different types of foundations and what those can be, and if you have any pre-approved customization options. So it's basically like, it's kind of a preview of what the full construction documents will look like, but it's not the actual full construction documents.
Right, so it's no imagery, it's just more manual based, like more statistical. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for asking. Uh, yeah, so moving on to the last required document, it's a memorandum of agreement signed and dated by the designer. It is available on the website and it's also linked in this PowerPoint. So just submit that. And if your design is selected, then the city will sign it also and give it back to you. So it's basically just kind of reinforcing the requirements of the request for informal proposals. Okay, moving on. So how to submit. So all the requests for informal proposals and lots of information is available on the website listed here, www.flagstaff.az.gov/ADUs. And then there's a submit a design tab and it links to a form shown over here that basically you fill out this information. It will, once we receive it, we'll create a link in SharePoint. So basically a shared folder that you'll then be able to upload all of your documents to. So that's the submittal process. So yeah, this go to the website, fill out this form, receive the link to the SharePoint folder, and then upload all of your documents before the request for informal proposals closes in February. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, so moving on to required design features. So there are many. I'm not going to go into them in a ton of detail here unless you have questions because they are all listed in the request for informal proposals. But basically, we're looking for detached ADUs. So there are other types of ADUs, but those are not in the scope of this request for informal proposals. So we're looking for a detached ADU. There are links to the zoning code, just to clarify. In the RFIP, they're linked to the zoning code, so you can make sure you're meeting those requirements. Also, the ADU can be no larger than 1,000 square feet. And at minimum, it needs to include a kitchen, a bathroom, sleeping and living areas with specific features listed here. So the next one has to do with building energy requirements. So this includes compliance with the 2024 International Residential Code and International Energy Conservation Code. Also, the building is to be all electric, so no natural gas plumbing, no appliances, no natural gas. Having the primary heat source be a cold climate air source heat pump. And there's information on what meets that criteria. There's a link here, and that's also in the request for informal proposals. And then also compliance with the electric ready residential building provisions of the 2024 International Residential Code. And there's a link to that in this presentation and the RFIP, and having Energy Star appliances. Also, all plumbing fixtures must meet water sense requirements, and the ADU has to include specific solar ready features. And again, those are in the RFIP, so I won't go over them again here unless you have any questions. Also, looking for passive solar design as feasible. So thinking about the ADU orientation and how it can incorporate passive solar design features to minimize passive heating and cooling. Another thing is the ADU must be able to be placed on different foundation types. So knowing that Flagstaff has a lot of steep lots, different soil types, how can we have this ADU be able to be placed on different foundation types to be able to be placed in the largest variety of lots possible? And then the last one is number 9 is complying with radon control methods in the 2024 International Residential Code. So those are all the required design features. There are some desired design features that are listed in the request for informal proposals to encourage you to consider when just drafting your designs. So the first category is kind of porches, awnings, or any other features that provide comfortable outdoor space and protection from the elements for the people living in the ADU. Also pre-approved customization options that don't alter the building of the footprint, but basically provide more options for people to choose from and minimize the need for custom plan review. So some potential things to consider for pre-approved customization options could be exterior features, such as variations in materials or finishes, roof lines, awning, porches, windows, etc., as well as interior features like variations in the floor plan. So really to summarize, the whole goal here is to minimize the need for anyone to have to do a custom plan review if they want to use these plans. So if we have more pre-approved features that go through that building plan review and approval process and are pre-approved, then someone can say, well, I want to use this plan with this pre-approved customization option, and I know that will work for my lot. And so that's why kind of thinking about how can we design these in a way that we have more pre-approved customization options so that we can use these plans as pre-approved plans and don't have to switch them into a custom plans review, which will take longer to review and be more expensive for the public. So that's really what these kind of pre-approved customization options are coming from.
Hey Genevieve, Rakesh has a question.
Yep, go for
A
it.
quick question. So you say that this ADU, so it's not like single family housing, like the tiny home development on not Sparrow, Fourth and Sparrow, right there on that hard corner. So that's not the type of ADU you're looking for. You're looking more for a custom design bid build type of structure, correct?
Well, they have to meet the 2024 building code. So anything that meets the building code could be built. So I believe
Okay,
those
so
are
that would be-
manufactured housing that has a special must be approved by the Arizona Department of Housing. And if they don't meet the
Okay.
building code, then they wouldn't meet this criteria at this point.
So I couldn't put just FEMA trailers. I'd have to actually, it'd be like more design bid build rather than just modular. That answers my question and clarifies it. Thank you.
Yeah, and if there's modular features and they can still meet these requirements, definitely encourage them to be submitted. But I know that true manufactured housing isn't subject to our building code requirements just based on the agreements with the Arizona Department of Housing. So, but I definitely encourage you to think out of the box, and if there are modular features that can be included but also meet these requirements, like definitely go for it. Okay.
Just a follow-up question real quick. For this submittal, what are you all looking for so that we, demonstrate that all these things will meet, water sense and solar ready requirements? Is that just, notes on the PDFs? Would that satisfy that, or is there something else that we need to document there?
Yeah, I think in here it talks about saying which features are on the architectural documents and which features will be on the future construction documents. So for this one, I would say just put in the narrative that these specific features will be shown on future construction documents, because we acknowledge that some of them are more detailed than what you'd be showing right now in the contest. Yeah, thank you for asking that though.
Yeah,
that's an important point. Okay, so I'll keep going unless anyone has any other questions on design criteria. Required or desired design features. Okay, I'll keep going, but please jump in if you have any questions. So I mentioned there's required design features that all designs have to meet. There's desired ones that if you want, you can add those as well, and definitely are encouraged. And then there's the selection criteria, and this is in the request for informal proposals. So these are the criteria that the selection committee will be using to evaluate and select the winning designs. So there's 5 categories. The first one is construction and affordability. The second one is site placement. The third one is sustainability and resilience. The fourth one is accessibility and universal design. And the fifth one is aesthetics, innovation, and creativity. And all of them have examples of how these can be met. And so that the selection criteria, we'll be looking at this and we'll be using this to score the different proposals. So I'll go into this in a little bit of detail. I will say the top 3 categories, so construction and affordability, site placement, and sustainability and resilience, those are worth 20 points each. And the bottom 2, accessibility and universal design, and aesthetics, innovation, and creativity, are worth 15 points each. So a total of 100 points. So the first one, construction and affordability. So looking at how practical and cost effective the proposal is, considering construction methods, material availability, and technological feasibility, as well as how well the proposal includes elements to reduce construction costs and how well it can be constructed simply and quickly. The second one is looking at site placement. So I did mention the goal is to minimize these having to go into custom, being reviewed as custom plans. So is it designed in a way that can work on a lot of different lots? in terms of its size, layout, options, and customizations. So thinking about different lots, types of lots that Flagstaff has. So with and without alley access, corner lots, mid-block lots, narrow lots, wide lots, sloped lots, lots of different lots, lots of trees and other site constraints. And just thinking about the relationship of the ADU to the main house and neighboring lots, knowing that, we don't know where these are going to be placed. So acknowledging that we're doing the best we can, but just kind of trying to think through different scenarios and thinking about how these can be designed or to fit on lots of different lots, as well as how those customization options can help make them fit on more lots than they otherwise would. The third one, sustainability and resilience. So there were those minimum design criteria, but these are in the selection criteria for that. So these are in addition to that. So looking at how well the design proposal can be oriented in different directions to maximize passive heating and cooling, as well as solar photovoltaic output, how well the proposal incorporates features relating to building energy efficiency, renewable energy, weatherization, low water use, home hardening and fire resistance, sustainable natural and or recycled design materials, waste management, and other features. The fourth one, accessibility and universal design. So this is looking at how well the proposal incorporates these features to make it easier to convert some of these into fully accessible units if needed. So this includes some design features that will be considered. So looking at the width of hallways and doorways, minimizing stairs and zero threshold entries, blocking for future grab bars, parallel approach to sinks, low threshold step-in shower facilities, stoves or cooktops with knobs at the front, detachable shower heads, accessible entries, and other features to facilitate adaptation to a fully accessible home in the future. And acknowledging that some of those things wouldn't be shown until construction plans for all of these categories, but acknowledging how they'll be addressed in your narrative. And the last one is how visually appealing the proposal is, how it incorporates traditional Flagstaff design elements, architectural styles and materials, how well the proposal incorporates design elements that are compatible with Flagstaff's historic and newer neighborhoods, how well it incorporates innovative and creative interior design elements to maximize occupants' use of small spaces, and how well it incorporates innovative and creative exterior elements. So these are the criteria that's going to be used to score proposals, and definitely encourage creativity and innovation and hopefully having fun with designing this. And we really look forward to seeing what designs get submitted. So I think that's all that I have on the presentation, but happy to answer any questions you might have. And if you have future questions after this meeting, please go ahead and email Teddy. His email address is listed here as well as the RFIP. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about anything we talked about today or anything else about the request for informal proposals?
Can you talk a little bit more just about, City of Flagstaff expectations for like traditional design? I think that was referenced in the RFIP for the aesthetic and stuff like that.
Yeah, that one is down here. Yeah, Flagstaff has a lot of different traditional design elements. So I see why you're asking that question. And there's also newer neighborhoods that don't incorporate those design aesthetics, but also could have ADUs. So that's kind of where the pre-approved customization options, I think, are really helpful, because they could allow a detached ADU to potentially be somewhat compatible with different types of neighborhoods. So if you had different kind of, finishes on the exterior or things like that, I think that probably helps with that.
Okay.
This doesn't call out specific elements, so I don't want to speak out of turn in terms of what specific elements, but I think that that's where the pre-approved customization options can really help an ADU fit in many different neighborhoods and feel like it makes sense there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, though. Good question.
Sure.
Well, the reason why I asked is because I have an ADU situation that I already did an attached ADU for my house in Flagstaff in Country Club, but
Mm-hmm.
the CCNRs and everything else were so restrictive. It did actually take us 18 months. It's being built right now, but it did take us 18 months for the whole what you had as like similar timeline. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to try to reduce that and kind of have a rubric of what you stated. I know you mentioned in the previous slides, like slides 1 or 3, that it had different cities or stuff that you were trying to mimic, but each one of those
Mm-hmm.
different cities has a different type of climate. So therefore, I don't know if that would work in, yeah, there you go, correct. Maybe like I seen one in Colorado Springs, kind of that might be similar, and I've seen all this stuff on the city's, general plan, but I'm not sure what you guys are trying to mimic because each different CCNR within the neighborhood is going to be restrictive. So, like in my neighborhood in Country Club, we had a real difficult time because not only did we have to deal with the city, we had to deal with CCNRs of Continental Country Club for the ag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just don't want to. I mean, I want to put my time and effort into a project like this, but if you guys give me a little parameter of what neighborhoods we're kind of looking at, I can have a better idea of what type of type 1 architecture, whether it's going to be glass or steel, wood frame, stucco. Maybe I'm just looking too deep into this because I've only done commercial, and I've done 2 different projects in town where I've done major construction renovation, one being the Americana Inn on East Route 66, and then the Comfort Inn on Lucky Lane, where I did solar and then the intensive renovation in 2015. So I'm kind of trying to focus on residential now, but my background's in real estate development. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
this project intrigued me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you bring up a lot of good points. I'll try to take them one at a time. So for looking at model plans, yeah, we're not looking at the same design criteria or building code requirements or anything like other cities. It's just kind of saying that lots of other cities have developed model plan libraries, but that each municipality is unique, obviously, in terms of like what our our climate like what we our climate design standards, things like that. So yeah, so this was just kind of an example that lots of places are doing it. But yeah, definitely not trying to do the same thing as Phoenix, because obviously, or Tucson, in terms of design standards and building code and things like that, because we have really different climate. So yeah, so no worries there that we're not trying to mimic places totally different from Flagstaff, just looking at them as examples. In terms of the CCNRs, yeah, you're correct. There definitely are neighborhoods across Flagstaff that have more specific design standards that are regulated by their CCNRs than what the city regulates in our zoning code. And that just is a fact of Flagstaff and places all around the country. So there may be some neighborhoods where you can't build in a detached ADU, or it's really challenging to do so just because of the setbacks, and that just is a fact. And the city does not regulate CCNR, so we really have no control over that. So we acknowledge that like this might not work in every single neighborhood in Flagstaff, but there are plenty of neighborhoods where it would work. So I would definitely just encourage you to think about if we go back to the selection criteria, just the site placement, aesthetics, innovation, and creativity, just thinking about how can you design a plan that could work in a lot of neighborhoods, knowing that some neighborhoods will be restrictive with their CCNRs, but how can you think about also having those pre-approved customization options, especially with exterior elements that make it more likely to be able to be approved in neighborhoods that have stricter CCNRs. But that definitely is, the CCNRs are just outside of what the city regulates. So that's definitely something, if you're familiar with some, you can think about it. But I, to be honest, I'm not familiar with what every neighborhood regulates. It's just so specific. But we're just trying to do the best we can and trying to get these to be able to be placed in the largest number of lots possible throughout Flagstaff, knowing that they won't be able to be placed on every lot. Does that answer your questions, Rakesh? Oops, we can't hear you.
Some of the neighborhoods that might be like kind of like Flag Ranch, where they have their planned community, MPC, master plan community, you're not going to be able to add a ADU to those master plan communities. They don't even have enough space to park more than 2 cars in their driveway. you know? So like a lot of these sites that you're talking about, I'm thinking to myself, which places are actually even feasible? With as much growth as we have in Flag, I'm just trying to think of pinpoint the neighborhoods. Are you looking at like, you know, Coquino Estates? Are you looking at over there on the east side, Swiss Manor? I'm just Greenlaw. I'm trying to figure out what neighborhoods you're trying to pinpoint to do this project because I'm a long-term resident of Flagstaff and I'm just trying to figure out the demographic considering all the new construction going on, even from Butler to the library.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
so I
no,
was trying to think about what neighborhood you're looking at. University Heights, if you just give us even like a somewhat of an
you
idea,
know,
that
it
be, might be interesting to me. I mean, I'm just saying this for just more participation because I know all the neighborhoods, very familiar with all of it. So
yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. I will say we don't have a specific neighborhood. Really, the goal is to get more ADUs across Flagstaff. And that's in the 10-year housing plan that the city adopted, as well as the carbon neutrality plan, just to get as many ADUs in Flagstaff as possible. So there isn't a specific neighborhood targeted, but definitely the neighborhoods you listed could be good candidates for ADUs. I don't think all of them have HOAs. And even some that do have HOAs, you still can, as you can build an ADU, it might be more challenging, like you talked about in Country Club, but can still do it. So I would just say, like, based on your experience and knowledge, like trying to think about how your design could be in the largest number of neighborhoods possible. And I will note too that Flag Ranch is actually outside of the city limits. So that one wouldn't apply. But all the other ones you talked about are in the city limits and would all be good candidates for ADUs.
How are you guys going to view a sleeping loft? So if we have a, a studio unit that on the ground level has a sleeping option and then also makes a provision for a sleeping loft, would you view that as a 2-bedroom, or could that still fit in the 1-bedroom slot?
Yeah, good question. We're looking for a wide variety, so I don't know if it matters too much in terms of selection, since that's not actually on the selection criteria. So we're not doing like a certain number of studios, certain number of 1-bedroom, and certain number of 2-bedroom. This is a pilot project, I will say, so we're just gonna see what comes in. I mean, we did our best to try to anticipate, issues, but this is a pilot project, so it is going to be a
Yep.
learning process. So
Okay.
I think a 1-bedroom with a loft definitely encourage like lots of different types. So I would say, like, if that's something you're interested in, you can, yeah, think about that. We're not going to be selecting, like, it doesn't matter that much in the selection criteria, I guess is what I'm trying to say, just because
Yeah,
we
so that
don't have a
wouldn't like
quota.
eliminate it from that category, in other
No,
words.
no,
Okay,
no, no,
got
definitely
it.
not. I think if it wasn't, yeah, if it had more than 2 bedrooms, then yeah, yeah, I think you're fine. As long as you're meeting the zoning code requirements for what an ADU is, you're fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, good question. Rakesh or Ty, do you have any other questions? I'm here till 3 o'clock. So if you have any other questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Just the universal design accessibility, like I think just understanding the full expectation. Are we thinking of, accommodating for somebody in a wheelchair with like battery pack and you know what I mean, like full blown ADA turning circle for what a new building would require?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, good question. It doesn't specify here, so I would say that the goal is to be able to facilitate to a fully accessible home, acknowledging that that's not always 100% feasible. So I would say do the best you can with the
Sure.
features that make sense. But we do want a wide variety of housing design. So if you do some, fully accessible design, definitely meets a lot of, if it had these features, would definitely meet those selection criteria. Acknowledging that Flagstaff is also a hilly place. So you can't always have a fully accessible access point either, but we do want a wide variety of housing, and there's definitely lots of folks who need more accessible units. So I would just say that's really up to the designer, but it is in the selection criteria. So I
Yeah,
guess
okay.
that's I hope that answers your question enough.
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Okay.
As far as like you had all that throughput, can you give us examples of projects that have already been approved through the city besides the ones I can think of? You said is there a list we can look on for public information of what type of projects you've approved for this timeline in the last 18 to 24 months?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely projects that can get approved. So we're doing model plans. So this isn't going through the full like
No, but
site
like
review.
just like examples of ones that you have already approved, not like just like case studies of the ones that you've done like in town already, like, you know.
Well, I
'Cause
will, you
I
know,
have my own. Is there like a list on the website? Because I know Arizona's a non-disclosure state, so they have to record all that through the city. I'm not sure if that
yeah.
would be through like the community development site or what part it would be.
Yeah, so building safety at the city, yes, under community development. So if you have any requests for looking at specific things, you'd have to contact them. I will say that model plans are typically used in Flagstaff, but for new single family subdivisions. That's kind of where the most common thing is. So where people are building new subdivisions, they will have a model plan for single family home, and the developer will say, I'm going to use it on this lot and this lot. So that's where this kind of process is typically used in Flagstaff. ADUs is a relatively new one. I don't think ADUs are used very often as model plans in Flagstaff, but they're a great candidate for it. So I don't think I have any specific examples to share with you for ADUs. But if you want to contact building safety, they could definitely give you examples, but I don't have any to share today other than I know this process is used pretty frequently for new subdivisions, and detached ADUs are also a great candidate because it's the same, standalone building. Great candidate for model plans. And as I said, like we're gonna work with designers to really try hard to meet this timeline. So you're not going to be on your own if you are selected and you have questions. Like staff will be here to support you and to help you meet this timeline. So you will have a lot of support to get you through this process.
Well, great. Thanks, Genevieve. I think that's all I had, and appreciate everybody's time.
Thanks, Ty. Thanks, Rakesh. Do you have any other questions?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, and if anything does come up in the future, sorry for the fast scrolling, go ahead and email Teddy. And Teddy will get in touch with me if I need to help answer questions. But Teddy is the point
And
of contact.
The link, the link for this proposal, since it's only Ty and I that are in this, so I may as well just get the link emailed or whatever. That way we don't have to go search for it. That's all.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, and we will put it on the website either way too. So you'll have that. And we'll do a recording of this as well. But thank you so much for coming. And again, if you have additional questions, we do have a second pre-application meeting that we're holding in January. So if anything comes up between now and then, definitely encourage you to join that meeting as well.
Yeah,
Very
thank
good.
you both
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.